You might not believe this, but it took me a whole 5 hours to realize you can zoom with the bow by holding down the right click. This little trick not only lets you zoom in, but also slows down time for those perfect headshots. Welcome back, gamers. If you're playing the Ranger in Obsidian's latest masterpiece, Avowed, then stick around because I've got some tips that you are going to love and it's going to elevate your game to a whole new level. Trust me, you don't want to miss these insights. First up, let's talk about companions. Kai is one of the very first companions you'll meet. As a ranger focused on range combat, you need someone who can tank damage. Kai's unbending defense skill is perfect for this. It increases his damage reduction and also improves his health regeneration, making him a sturdy frontline ally. He also has a skill called Fire and Air, where he fires his blunderbuss and taunts enemies simultaneously, meaning as a ranger, you can hold back. You don't need to come and rush into the fight while Kai is taking damage and healing at the same time. You can start picking off enemies one by one. And as usual, right, this is an RPG, right? So it's not one headshot, one kill. You're going to be aiming multiple arrows for a particular enemy, especially later in the game, in order to take them down. So you do need someone who's going to be able to stand there, take damage, heal, while you are slowly whittling down the enemies around them. So remember, as a ranger, you need to prioritize targets, right? If you don't take out the enemies attacking Kai, he could go down, making battle 100 times harder. So when you go into battle, right, there's roughly going to be maybe 5 or 6 bad guys so far. Again, in my playtime so far, I haven't experienced a battle with more than 5 or 6. Also depends on the summons as well. And summons, you need to take out the person who's summoning the enemies so that, again, your main tank doesn't get overwhelmed. Moving on to your second companion, which is Marius. So far, I've met 4 of the companions. 3 of them I've been able to be on my team. The 4th one, I think I'm close to be able to recruit her. But Marius is pretty good. Him and Kai have this established history in the game. So when you're camping at night, they often say funny things to each other. Marius, though, is also a ranged character like yourself, which makes it a kind of a problem because one guy tanking and 2 people doing range combat, and especially I feel like range combat doesn't do a huge amount of damage, again, just depending how you think about it. So I've been trying to spec out Marius to use his thieving skills like shadow, stabbing, I don't know how else to describe it. So I'm focusing on melee, seems to be working out okay, but definitely my plan is as soon as I have the 4th character, which is the lady with the 4 ears, sort of animal looking, I'm going to add her in as well. So we have magic, a tank, and an archer ranger person, which is myself. Okay, one of the earliest abilities you get is Tanglefoot. Now, Tanglefoot is really cool because, again, as a ranger, as a pure ranger, which is the way I'm playing this game, is that you want to hold back and then shoot arrows and pepper arrows at somebody, right? So Tanglefoot, at its very first level, right, stops the enemy, right? At its second level, gives you poison damage. At its third level, it stops the enemy for an extra 4 seconds, which can be a decent amount of time, and I think that's going to be very useful later on. But yeah, unfortunately, Tanglefoot is only a single target skill. I think I've managed to do it once, where I've sort of 2 people at the same time, but they were quite close together. And I'm not sure if that was a bug as well, because this was before the most recent 2 patches that the game had. But definitely a useful spell. You don't have to go that way, but again, as a pure ranger, this is what I did. A combat tip as well is when you're fighting, right, just going back to the tanking side of things, is you don't want to rush in, right? You don't want to be too close to where your tank and Marius are fighting, because if you're too close, enemies might sort of de-aggro themselves from Kai and then come after you again. And again, because of the pure range character, a lot of my skill points have gone into dexterity, right? I'm not very sturdy. I don't have a lot of constitution. So that means I could die pretty early. I'm pretty squishy. I wouldn't say really a glass cannon, but someone who is pretty weak. So you want to stay far away from combat because, again, your companions are immortal. So you don't have to worry about them dying, right? So if they do die, the enemies are still going to be there. You can slowly like run away and kill them, sort of hit and run away until you've killed them all, and then your companions will be revived again. So don't worry too much about that. All right, moving on to armor. Armor also plays an important part of this game because you have different kinds of armor in this game, from light to medium to heavy. And the heavier the armor you have, of course, the greater protection you have, but it decreases your stamina and your essence. And essence is the equivalent of mana or mana in this game. But again, as a pure ranger, the only spell I use so far in about 12 hours of play is Tanglefoot, and I use it 2 or 3 times when I'm playing the game. That's about it. So my mana or my essence is fine. As it comes to armor, it that's another story, right? I've gone for like the middle of the road. I don't want to go too heavy, right? Because you do need lots of stamina to sort of continuously fire arrows, especially when you put points into dexterity, which means increases your attack speed. So you can shoot a lot of arrows really fast. You can attack really fast in the game, but attacking really fast means you need lots of stamina. So you need to find out, like, what do you want to play as a heavy tank archer, which is kind of weird and kind of interesting at the same time. I do want to play the really light-footed, fast archer, like a Legolas from Lord of the Rings, right? And then you want to go for the light armor. So that's something definitely to think about as well. So let's talk about headshots, right? As you might have seen in earlier game footage in this game, headshots do the most damage. They also do the most stun. And you have that power, which is part of your skills, which allows you to slow down time when you right-click, hold zoom, and you're aiming, which allows you to get headshots as well. So you always want to try and aim for the head. I would say you don't really need to aim for the head when the enemy is almost dead. You're like, okay, I don't want to zoom and sort of take your time because I need to kill this guy and then move on to the next guy. That's something to think about as well. The other thing I want to say when it comes to combat, you don't have to do this pure range build that I'm doing. I wanted to do this because, and again, I love the Green Arrow TV show. I want to beat the whole, Emerald Archer and that sort of thing. So you do have the option of being more like a Legolas, which is somebody who does shoot arrows and is really good at it, but is also really good at sword fighting. And there are a bunch of abilities in the game which will help you do extra sword damage, help you with blocking and parrying and blocking arrows as well if people do shoot arrows at you. You can think about that route. And if you are, leave a comment down below. I'd be love to know like how you think about this sort of route. Another cool thing, which I just recently discovered in the last few hours, is the ability of food to really enhance your fighting and your combat. There's something called Magan's Blessing as well, which gives you plus 20% damage, plus 20% damage reduction. And that holds for like 6 minutes. And that's usually as long as you need for a specific combat encounter. And again, as a ranger as well, you have the extra skill tree, which allows you to sort of level up and get additional food recipes. I haven't unlocked this yet, but that is my plan to do for this build. So that's something to think about as well, is because you do pick up a lot of food in the game, and a lot of that food can be used and combined in order to create other items that will allow you to have other beneficial effects, like creative perception, right? So again, if you're going into a role where perception is going to matter, you can sort of eat the food before you go into that dialogue choice, and then you get to have extra perception, right? Or if you're going to combat, you could bless yourself for extra damage. You could eat something for extra food, and then you have all these sort of buffs as you go into combat. I think at normal difficulty, I don't think that's super necessary so far. I haven't found the combat totally difficult. It's sort of, to me at the moment, it's perfectly balanced between kind of like, it is dangerous, right? If you just don't care about fighting. But if you do care about fighting, you'll be fine. And there you have it. So, fellow Rangers, tips that are sure to help you dominate in Avowed, whether it's zooming in for those perfect headshots or using companions effectively. These strategies, I hope, are going to give you guys an edge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tips and tricks. My name is Korean, as always, bringing you more Avowed content, 1 video a week, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. See you next time, and happy hunting.